So what we consider a win, somebody else might have been like, but I wanted it to be purple and you painted everything pink.
What can my team expect from me? What can I expect from my team? What can our customers expect from us?
Pull some metrics, but then at the very end, it's like, would you hire them again? Or would you hire them in that same role again? Hello, everybody. We are here. It is October. October's my favorite month.
I think I should put my sweater on real fast because it's fall weather, y'all.
Fall, y'all. There's a pumpkin. New England's beautiful in New England. You don't sweat just walking outside. That's critical to me. But most importantly, it's also time to get your strategic planning started, because I think so many agencies start in like January. What do we want to do this year? The end of year is crazy, but it's such a good time also too, because for agencies, they really should be looking at where you are with your carrier goals. And I can't tell you how many agents I've worked with that have missed bonuses or a contingency or plan by coming within thousands of dollars of premium of a growth goal. So this helps get things aligned. And if you think y'all can sit down with an hour, write a plan for next year, you got another thing coming, especially if you're going to use our new strategic planning workbook, which is amazing, mainly because I wrote it. So part of going ahead and getting a winning strategy is figuring out growth. So real quick, if you guys want to learn more about a strategic planning workbook, you can head to our website. It's all over the place. We'd love to talk to you about it anytime. We also want to thank you for listening to our podcast. By you listening, you help us. We obviously don't have any sponsors on this podcast. We do it all for ourselves. So unlike all the other places we're going to learn about the new cool hip technology, you're just going to learn stuff.
You're learning insurance and agency stuff.
You're just going to learn lots of stuff here. Our stuff is so good, people don't need to pay us to talk about their stuff. That's how I feel about it. So I'll probably pass the first one over to Steven. You were a chief operating officer of an agency, and I love the two owners. They're amazing, but they really got to let you run the show, right? So how important was it to sit down and create that game plan for the year, knowing that there was people above you and ahead of you, and they wanted it to grow?
I think it was key to growth. And I mean, key to know what was important and what wasn't. When we're not clear, we can tend to focus all of our time, effort, and energy in the wrong places, or we're not getting the results that somebody else was really looking for. So what we consider a win, somebody else might have been like, but I wanted it to be purple and you painted everything pink. And you'd be like, but it's gorgeous.
Not purple.
Right. You're like, but it's gorgeous. And they're like, yes, it was a nice product, but that wasn't what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think clarity is kind, and the details are necessary to sit down and really go through and say, hey, where are we at? What do we need? What do the steps look like? And what does success look like? How do we know that a good job was done?
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk all the time. There's a lot of people think growth is sales. Growth is not just sales. Growth of an agency happens through placing business, through retention, through cross-selling, through profitability. I once worked for a gentleman who would say, if you want to make $1 million, you spend $1 million. And I was like, well, yes, you made $1 million, but you didn't keep that much of it. So, we kind of have our own growth strategy. So I'm going to have Bobby talk about the first one. But I think if you break it down step by step, the first step of understanding how you're going to grow is by having a vision and a mission. So Bobby, do you want to share a little bit about how important that is?
Yeah, I think that, when we really think about our agency's vision, and I think this is where, as agency principals, as agency leaders, sometimes we know what we want and we think we maybe have clearly identified to our team, or that they should know, but they don't always know, or they don't remember. And
I forgot.
Or it's changed and we didn't clearly communicate those changes. So I think the vision is super important, because where are we going? What are we all getting on the boat, and where are we rowing towards? Because when we don't have a clear vision, we all then scatter different directions because we think we're doing the right thing, but how do we really know it? And how do we really clearly identify it to our team? What is the right thing to do? And so I think having that vision, aligning that vision and the mission. So, and also I think there's a difference between the vision of our organization and the mission of our organization too, right? Our mission is, what are we here to do? And what services do we provide to our clients? Our vision is how we getting there. And these are all the steps that we need to take, and kind of also incorporating goals so that we can celebrate wins along the way with our vision, with our team too, so that they know what are those stepping stones, what are those milestones that we're going to get to, that we're going to be able to celebrate along the way. Because what we do in insurance is difficult, and some days it can be hard. And so we got to incorporate some fun with that too, because that's how we're going to get and keep those great team members on our team, is when they have a lot of clarity.
I also think we have to remember that it's got to be kind of integrated into everything. Otherwise, it's just a meeting where we talked about where we want to go. And you as a leader, been thinking about that. Like, I'm thinking about 2025, and Bobby and Stephen might be like, but it's 2024 and we still have to have 6 months. It's only halfway done. But my job is to think out
Right.
way ahead, so that way, as we're completing this, we're not sitting there in January like, what do you want to do? I don't know. We just completed this year. I guess we got to think about next year.
And then I think having our values, right? What are our values? So we talk about values a lot here. What can my team expect from me? What can I expect from my team? What can our customers expect from us? And this is not just, processing an endorsement within 3 days, or getting back to a customer within 24 hours. This is, do we expect our team to operate with integrity? What happens if my team member shows up with a bad attitude every day and brings down the office culture? So I think the mission is, customer facing. This is what we provide and what our agency does and what we can do for you. Our vision is kind of that internal side of things, where we expect our team to go and where we're going, how we're going to get there. And then our values are, these are the things we need you to have and do each day to really make us effective.
Absolutely. And I think that the next step that you have to think about if you're thinking about growth is, what is the market analysis? And let me tell you something. People skip this because they're like, oh, we know the agency's in town. When's the last time you've been to their website? When's the last time you checked out their Google reviews? How do you know that they're not maybe going to be acquired by a bank? How do you know that maybe their top producer's unhappy? Maybe the son or daughter is going to start taking over and there's people that aren't going to be happy about that. But understanding your market analysis is so key. Maybe there's other towns where you could go into that have a different population. I just think you have to be understanding your competition at all points in time. And you can be like, oh, well, I think in insurance, we're all so freaking nice. Like, oh, well, I see them all the time at the Big I or the PIA, or, well, we have the same carriers. They're good over there. I'm like, no, do you want to murder them? like the US Olympics. I'm like obsessed with the Olympics because I think it's just so cool what these people do. Like, wild, right? Like, they're the best in their whole sports. How can you go ahead and learn how to figure that out? Or I've seen a lot of people miss opportunities for acquisition because they weren't nurturing some of those agencies in town where they could have maybe been the person to acquire them. So you want to look at your market analysis and figure that part out. But Stephen, how does an agency go ahead and set goals, right? Like, so you're looking at the year, and we always break it up into 2 buckets, right? Your goals, which are super metrics. We want to be XYZ in premium by the end of the year. Okay. Or we want to sell 20% more, or we want our retention to be 93%, whatever it is. Everybody's going to be different. And then we have the second bucket, which is projects. We're going to change systems. We're going to get a sales CRM, do our website. But it's 2 buckets, right? But it's still part of a strategic growth plan, because you have this goal and then these projects fuel how we're going to go hit that goal at the end of the day. So what's your feedback on that?
I think that we really need to take a step back and look at the projects and see, are they necessary or are they something that just sound really fun? Because sometimes we get in this bucket of, but this is going to solve so many problems, but we don't take enough time to research it first and realize that it actually causes 100 more problems than it solves, or that to get the team fully on board and to use it, we're going to have other things in place first. So I'm not saying we can't have projects or use new technology, but we need to be prepared for it. And that's where part of that planning comes in. And a lot of times you need to be 6 to 12 months out before you can decide on new software or on what projects are a priority. And I love the parking lot idea of, yes, that's a great idea, but let's put that in the parking lot till our next planning meeting or till our next quarterly meeting and see where we might be able to fit that in. Like, is the world going to end today? Are we going to go bankrupt if we don't do this? Or are we going to make $100 million if we jump on it right now? And is it going to really change our lives? But then we have to break it down and say, like, how can we measure what the success is going to be like? What are the parameters of anything we're working on? And when we're setting goals, we really need to say, do we already have the tools needed to perform? Or do we really need all new tools? Because I think that's the biggest frustration I see in agencies is they get all these cool new things and they're like, but nobody's using it. I'm like, because nobody knows how to use your system first. So how can we expect them to learn 7 new things? And there's no training path. There's no project priority. There's no goals of what needs to be set or to be achieved or who's going to monitor it and be accountable to it. So it kind of all just rolls back into a big beast of let's set some goals. Let's make sure that they're smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Determine who's going to be in charge of those. And then we look at the tools we need to make those happen.
Yeah.
And that's where the projects come from.
In our strategic planning workbook, there's actually a whole section on analyzing your tech stack. So like what you have, what it does, go on their website. Because a lot of times there's updates that you don't know about. And then actually it makes you as a step, it's go and see how many people are using it. Stephen and I were at an agency recently that has a great tool. I'm not going to name names, but we found that nobody had logged in since April.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were talking about that piece of technology, we're all so excited. So 2 weeks after the training, did anyone log in? No. So if that's the case, then you have to decide, are you going to keep it, trash it, or get people to use it? That's it. But it's a lag on your balance sheet if not. Another item that I'm really excited about in the strategic plan is actually taking a minute and reviewing each employee, not at their annual review, right? But just at like, hey, we're at the end of the year. People run insurance agencies. So if you don't have the best people, you are getting held back and you're not going to hit your goal. Or what I see a lot is agencies building things around these people. Like, well, Sally doesn't like technology, so we aren't going to make that happen. Or, well, so-and-so doesn't want to wear a headset. So first call resolution is going to be something we encourage, but not mandate. And so we actually have it where you look at their job description and rate them, and then the values of the agency if you have them, and then pull some metrics. But then at the very end, it's like, would you hire them again? Or would you hire them in that same role again? It's a real big honesty moment. Doesn't mean that you walk out of that meeting and be like, Sally, you are fired. But it means you have to plan next year for either some very direct conversations or a change of role or to be ready to upgrade. Right. And so the analysis of the team is critical. So here's what everybody always says, Bobby, right? I can't find anybody. If I have a nickel for every time somebody tells me that you can't find any good people, I said, then build them. We've been talking about this hiring BS for 4 years before COVID. Yes, there is not the unicorn of someone with 10 years experience that knows your management system and all your carriers and can just magically drop into your agency and appear out of nowhere. No, that does not exist. And then, I like to tell people, I go, hey, imagine this. Imagine you own a company where not only do they have the people have to think like you, have insurance backgrounds. So I'm pulling from the same community you are. Okay. And they have to get on an airplane every week and go all across the country. Do you think that's easier to find?
Yeah, it is. No.
No, it's not easy.
No, I was lying.
So if I'm not complaining about hiring, you all can't complain. And then you ask them like, well, where's your job posting? Oh, well, I don't really have one up. It's just hard to hire. I'm like, no. Yeah, no, if nobody knows you're actually looking for people, it is very hard to find people. So, Bobby, what do you think about finding the best team?
I ran a program for 6 years because we knew that, and they can go out and look it up. The silver tsunami is a thing in the insurance industry. There are hundreds of thousands of jobs available because we did not do a great job as licensed insurance professionals bringing in new, young, fresh talent into the industry. The work is difficult. It's not going to be one of those things where they can just, sit back and, run a DoorDash order here and there, right? but we have to make it fun and we have to make it engaging, and let's hire the right cultural fit. Let's find out, going back to those vision, those values, all those reasons why and things that we want to do to move forward. Who's that good cultural fit that we can put in that seat, and then teach them the insurance piece of it? Because we're teaching the insurance piece of it regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Because even with as much as experience as we all have, if we sat down in an agency today, there still would be a learning curve.
Yeah.
Right.
We still would have to learn that state or learn that product or learn that carrier. So there's still that learning curve there. And I don't know, I'm sure both of you probably hear this a lot too. Well, we don't have time to train. I don't have time to train somebody, but guess what changes if we don't train?
Mm.
Also, I think we overthink training. Like, we have to have this big, long thing. Like, it's got to be this formal scenario. Like, just record an endorsement.
Yes.
Don't,
Yeah.
like-
Just record what you're doing and give it to the person. I mean, your right cultural fit is going to dive right in. They're going to watch the training. They're going to write down their questions. They're going to test it. And then they're going to come to you with the questions that they have. Hey, I didn't understand this piece.
Or they're going to write it out so next person comes is better.
Yeah.
Well, that was my thought with when you get a new hire and you already have that recording, right? You've recorded it. Now have them write the workflow. That then helps to solidify the learning too. So, hey, as you're going through this training, write a workflow to go with it. They're already doing it. And when they tell me we don't have time to do that. You're already doing the work. Just record yourself doing the work, team. That's all you got to do. Turn on whatever feature you use. I said Skype the other day, so I'm probably dating myself because I don't even know Skype.
Skype is still a thing, Bobby. You're okay.
Okay, so I'm still
Really?
good. So
It is still a thing. It got blended back into Teams, I think, but it's still around.
Yeah. Whether you use Zoom, whether you use Teams, Google Meets, Slack, whatever your team space is where you can just hit a record button, quickly record yourself doing that thing. It doesn't have to be hour-long recordings. Even if they are, splice them up later.
Also, I don't know if everybody knows we have 10 of the top processes in an agency.
Yes.
So if you don't have time to train, then guess what? We can take like half of it off of your plate right then and there. But I think sometimes people you get burned out from training because it's like dating. Like, you might not get the right candidate first one. So people feel overwhelmed. Also, a lot of people in an agency are not good trainers.
Yeah.
Right?
So I understand that. So we have to think differently, I think, around it and through it. But the whole idea is, if you go into next year with a clear plan, coming into year 3 of hard market, right? Hard market will change again next year. So you need a new strategy. And your biggest expense is your payroll. So you need to give everybody where we're going, what to celebrate, what's important, how to kind of drill that down. And I know for me, like, I got obsessed with strategic planning because I bought a workbook from just like a generic business workbook. Amy Porterfield, like, she's out there. She's, a huge, just like, she used to work for Tony Robbins. She quit her job and now she just helps people start small businesses. And I was like, this is so helpful. Like, Amy gave me a question, I can answer it. Versus sitting on the blank sheet of paper, right? And like looking at it, being like, what do I want to do next year? Because I always say this, knowing what you want is the hardest thing in the whole wide world, because the older you get, if I want something, I have to usually sacrifice something or change something or confront or disrupt something, right? Like, if I want to get into better shape, I have to stop drinking.
What?
You don't have to, but you got to work around it a lot. It helps.
Right.
I got to stop eating the cookies.
I got to stop eating the cookies. I have to work out, which means I have to find more time. So the older you get, when you know what you want, you have to confront difficult things, right? So is it easier to stay as you are? In the moment, yes. But then you wake up with regret, or like, I could have done this, or why don't we have this? Or my agency owner friend's doubling in size. Why aren't we? And you start thinking to yourself, okay, well, it starts with you understanding what you want and then aligning all the decisions in the business around that. And by the way, there are agencies that we work with that don't want to grow, and that's fine. Then you have to up your standards so that you don't take on crappy business, right? Like, or you have to then identify the fact that you're overstaffed and you might need to let someone go. And so whatever you choose is fine, but you are going to have to make adjustments and confront certain things that can be difficult sometimes, which is why some agencies say, what's your goals? To grow.
I want to grow.
What are you at right now? I don't know. Okay. Could you get that number? Probably. So I think that, and I'll leave everybody with this. You want to attract the top talent, you need to grow because they're going to want opportunity. They're going to want change. They're going to want good technology. They're going to want a marketing budget. They're going to want things because that's what really well-run agencies do. If you want to go ahead and have like the industry retread that's been around every agency in town or wants to come in and just do it their way, like that's what you're going to get. But if you can show someone a growth goal and here's our vision and here's our plan and here's our theme for the year and here's our incentives. Oh, and by the way, here's our company swag. We're into branding and marketing. We're getting out in the community. You're going to get a higher quality candidate just by that nature. But if it's like, yeah, you come here and you do endorsements all day.
Please process the endorsements correctly.
Without the process that's written. Is that what you want?
However you want to do it, it's fine.
Okay, good.
Get it done.
So check out our workbook. I just think it's so, so critical. And we actually, even then, a lot of people, I think, don't do strategic planning because maybe they've failed in the past to stay committed at the end. So we actually have a whole section and you can actually buy an additional tracker for the next year. Like, how close did I come? And, we even were working on some things where it'll check in on you. Don't forget me. It's your plan. I know I love creating goals and then they kind of become habits and then I don't necessarily go back and check in on them, but I should. So this will be the thing I work on next year is going back and oh, look at that. We did that. That's cool. So check it out. You can't go wrong. We are running a special until the end of October and then it will go up in price. But, even if you're catching us a little bit late, go check it out. We're running a special again through the end of the year. So strategic planning, necessity to have growth and to have it not be chaotic, crazy growth, because the top secret thing I'm gonna let y'all know is next year, you're not going to grow by rate the same way you grew this year or the year previously. So now you definitely need a growth strategy. Stephen, Bobby, any final thoughts?
Do it. Something's better than nothing. Get it down on paper and make it happen.
No, that's actually a really good point. I just want to say on what Stephen said, your first one's your worst one. If I go back and look at my strategic plan, maybe when it was just me, it was I'm going to make so much money. I can buy Pottery Barn bedding, the whole bed. That was one of my initial goals, everything on the bed, which is really expensive because they have 17 blankets.
Yeah. And just piggybacking off of that, don't overthink it, right? Just start getting that pen to paper. Because just because you write it down doesn't mean it's solidified. You can always change it, but just get started, right? It's just getting that forward movement. If you're thinking about that goal, don't be overwhelmed by the goal. Just think, how do we make the first step?
How do we make it happen?
Absolutely. And if somebody pops in your head that's stopping you, you know what you have to do next. All right, everybody, go check it out. You can get it in the show notes. Come to our website. But definitely, even if you just take some bits and pieces here and get started on your own, we'd love a good plan. Let us know how you're doing. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in our next podcast.
Thanks, guys.